You know, the material you sent over this time, it's really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like data or policy, it's a story, you know, about a real place, a
Hmm.
neighborhood.
Like where people are actually living.
Exactly, happening right now. But officially, it's almost like it isn't there.
That's the core of it, isn't it? This place in Karimnagar, Telangana.
Near the Lower Manair Dam, yeah,
w-
for over 40 years, apparently.
40 years.
And we're talking, what, 2,000 people living in this kind of official void, no name.
It's pretty staggering when you think about it. The very basis of where you live, your address,
Yeah.
just not formally recognized.
And it's not some remote village either. It's in the 8th division of the city.
A growing city, yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes it even stranger. The sheer practical side of it is what gets me. How do you function day to day?
Absolutely. Because it exists. There are houses, there's even school, kids go there.
Polling booths too, apparently, so people vote there.
Right. Life just carries on. But ask for an official document and it's like poof, a blank spot on the map.
And the names, that's the other wild part.
Totally. Kesava Nagar, fisherman's colony.
Or Chapala colony, right?
Yeah.
Which is Telugu for fish colony.
Okay. Then Tamil colony, Kakatiya colony.
Alagunar to Kummari Badi Wada.
It's like a choose your own adventure for an address. Except, with real consequences.
It's exactly. You mentioned that quote from Kalyan, the resident.
Yeah. Buying land is a lifelong treasure hunt, and getting mail is a miracle. That really hits home, doesn't it?
It grounds it immediately. That's not just like an administrative quirk.
Mm.
That's someone's life being made difficult.
So yeah, that's our mission today, I guess, to really dive into how this even happened. How does a place go nameless for 40 years?
What's the day-to-day reality for those 2,000 people?
Right. And what does it sort of tell us about wider issues? Governance, maybe?
Absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there.
Okay, so these names. You mentioned Kesava Nagar. There was an attempt way back.
Yeah, back in the 80s, it seems. A local MLA, member of the Legislative Assembly, tried to formalize it as Kesava Nagar.
Okay, so someone tried.
They even distributed some land titles, apparently. Put up a plaque.
So it almost worked.
Well, that act of naming, even trying to name it, shows how important recognition is, right? That basic human thing.
Yeah.
But then the plaque got removed. Objections from neighboring areas.
So politics got involved.
It always does, doesn't it? Especially with something like naming land. It reveals those local power dynamics.
Yeah.
Even something seemingly simple.
And that initial failure, the Kesava Nagar attempt just fizzling out. It feels kind of symbolic, looking back.
It really does. Like one step forward into being official, then pushed right back into ambiguity.
And after that, the official process just, ground to a halt?
Seems like it. Just stalled.
Yeah.
And that's when these other names, the unofficial ones, really started to take root.
Organically, you mean?
Yeah. Like a Tamil colony probably points to Tamil-speaking families moving in.
Makes sense.
Fisherman's colony, or Chapala colony, likely references the original livelihoods near the dam.
Right, the connection to the water.
It may be Kakatiya colony came from the school. The school needed a name, so it adopted one, and that gave the area a kind of identity, at least locally.
For education, yeah.
But then you get Aliagunar 2 and Kummari Badi Wada showing up on voter IDs.
Which sounds like just bureaucratic improvisation, like someone needed to put something down.
Pretty much. It really shows the community trying to make things work despite the system, resilience.
But also, what a mess for consistency.
Oh, a total mess. Imagine you're trying to link up records, health department, education, voting rolls.
If they all use different names for the same place.
It's impossible. How do you track services? How do you plan? This isn't just like an inconvenience. It affects how government functions or doesn't function for these people.
And why does that happen? Is it just different departments not talking to each other?
That's often a huge part of it. Land records might be with one agency, municipal services with another, urban planning somewhere else.
And they all have their own priorities, their own systems. Maybe outdated systems.
Exactly. Fragmented authority, poor communication. Things just fall through the cracks, especially something like formally recognizing a settlement that grew somewhat organically.
Which brings us back to the human cost. Kalyan's treasure hunt for land, the miracle of mail.
Think about filling out any official form. School admission, a bank loan, maybe applying for government aid.
Which name do you use? You pick one, hope for the best.
And maybe it gets rejected because it doesn't match some other record. It adds this layer of constant uncertainty.
So yeah, understanding how this bureaucratic tangle started.
And how it's been allowed to persist for so long.
That's crucial. What are the gears of government that have failed here?
Definitely. We need to look into that bureaucratic maze. It's a story about, well, about the importance of just having clear rules and processes and what happens when they're missing.
Okay, let's rewind to that initial attempt again. The 80s, the MLA, Kesava Nagar. For people maybe not familiar with how local government works in India, what are the typical roles here? You've got like municipal people, revenue officials.
Right. So very broadly, the municipal folks usually handle the day-to-day running of the city, roads, sanitation, local planning inside city limits.
Okay.
Then you have revenue officials.
Yeah.
They're traditionally focused on land records, collecting land revenue, and crucially, often involved in identifying and formally recognizing settlements, mapping boundaries, that kind of thing.
Got it. Land people.
And then sometimes you have urban development authorities, which might oversee bigger picture planning, land use regulations, coordinating development across different areas.
So 3 potential players, maybe more?
At least.
Yeah.
And in this case, it looks like the breakdown was, well, a lack of coordination between them all.
Like the MLA tried, maybe got the ball rolling with one group.
Exactly. But maybe the necessary paperwork, the official notifications, the updates to the land records held by revenue, the integration into the municipal plans, that just didn't happen across the board.
It's like that group project analogy you used.
Yeah. Everyone assumes someone else is writing the final report, so it never gets written.
And the project naming the neighborhood just gets left unfinished, stuck in limbo.
Precisely. And then, over time, these informal names become the reality on the ground.
Which makes it even harder later on, right? Because now you've got multiple names people actually use and identify with.
Exactly. Each name has its own history, its own meaning for different families or groups within the community.
So if the government finally came in today and said, okay, we're calling it Kesava Nagar, some people might say.
But we've always called it Tamil Colony. Or what about Fisherman's Colony? It could stir up new issues.
So you need to balance the administrative need for one name with respecting the community's own sense of identity.
That's the tightrope walk, yeah.
It's this almost perfect storm, isn't it? Bureaucratic inertia meets organic community naming.
And caught in the middle are the residents.
Who are amazingly just getting on with it, sending kids to the Kakatiya colony / Alugunar 2 school.
Can you imagine filling out that school form?
Seriously. And voting at booths, named differently depending on who knows what list they're using.
Participating in civic life, trying to be citizens, despite this fundamental piece missing, their resiliences. Yeah, it's pretty striking.
It really is. But we shouldn't confuse that resilience with, like, acceptance, should we?
Absolutely not. Adapting to a broken system doesn't mean the system isn't broken. 40 years is just, it's too long.
It points to a pretty significant failure somewhere.
A failure of the governing bodies to address a really basic need. Recognition, a stable identity within the system.
So why? Why 40 years? The information suggests this bureaucratic merry-go-round, right?
Yeah, the classic pass the buck situation. Municipality says, that's a revenue matter, land records.
Revenue says, well, it's urban development plan.
And maybe urban development points back to the municipality or says it needs coordination. And round it goes.
It feels like no single department wants to grab it and say, okay, we'll sort this out.
And that points to a lack of clear accountability, doesn't it? Or maybe a lack of a defined process for fixing these kinds of administrative gaps once they appear.
It can't just be about, oh, picking a name is tricky. 40 years suggests something deeper.
Definitely. Bureaucratic inertia is a powerful force. And without sustained pressure or a clear mandate, these things can just drift. A proactive effort to actually sit down, talk to the community, figure out the preferences, mediate, that seems to have been completely missing.
There's a certain irony, too, when you think about Telangana itself.
How so?
Well, the whole statehood movement was about recognition, right?
Right.
About achieving a distinct identity after a long struggle.
That's a really powerful point, yeah.
And here, within that state, in Karimnagar, which is a significant historical city, you have this community fighting its own smaller battle for just basic administrative identity.
That parallel is quite poignant. The success of the Telangana movement highlights how vital that official recognition and collective identity are.
And this colony situation, though different in scale, it echoes that same fundamental need, doesn't it? To be seen, to be counted, to belong officially.
Especially in a city like Karimnagar, which is growing, becoming more diverse. You need governance that keeps up, that includes everyone.
And then there's the dam, the Lower Manair Dam, right nearby.
A symbol of progress, yeah. Irrigation,
A big infrastructure project, yet literally in its shadow, you have this neighborhood struggling with paperwork from the 80s. It makes you question what we mean by progress.
That's a critical question. Is progress just the big visible projects? Or does it also have to include making sure the basic administrative machinery works for everyone? That people have that foundation of an official identity?
It feels like true progress has to be both the big projects and the efficient, equitable systems serving people on the ground.
Absolutely. The situation in this colony really throws that potential disconnect into sharp relief.
So, okay, let's imagine the government decides, right, 40 years is enough, let's fix this. What would they actually need to do? What are the steps?
Well, the first absolutely critical step, I think, would be to get all the key players in one room. Or, form a dedicated task force.
So municipal folks, revenue, urban development.
Exactly. Representatives from all the relevant departments, no more pointing fingers. They need a joint mandate to resolve it.
Okay. Task force assembled. Then what?
Then they need to talk to the residents. Properly engage with the community.
Not just impose a name from above.
No, definitely not. Hold public meetings, maybe conduct surveys, understand the history of all those unofficial names, find out what people actually prefer, what their concerns are.
Community involved.
Crucially involved.
Okay.
And then, based on that consultation and the administrative realities, the task force needs to make a definitive decision. Pick one official name.
And announce it.
Announce it, yes. But just as importantly, make sure it actually sticks this time.
The follow-through.
Exactly. There needs to be a concrete plan. Update all the land records. Update voter IDs. Inform all government departments. Ensure consistency across the board. Change the school name officially, the polling booth names. Everything.
So it's not just picking a name, it's the whole implementation process afterwards.
Precisely. And maybe this whole situation could even trigger a review. Like, how do we spot these problems earlier? How do we make sure this doesn't happen elsewhere as cities grow?
Learn from the mistake, basically.
Hopefully.
And making sure the residents feel like they were actually part of the solution, not just having it dictated to them.
That's key for legitimacy, isn't it? If people feel heard, maybe even vote on options or reach a consensus, they're more likely to accept the final name.
It turns it from just fixing a bureaucratic error into, like, a moment of community recognition.
Yeah, it could be quite empowering after decades of being in this gray zone. Formal recognition, finally.
So you've got this really vibrant community, it seems. Just living their lives, building families, participating, all while being officially sort of invisible on the map for 4 decades.
For no fault of their own.
No. It really makes you appreciate the things we just take for granted. Like having an address that works, that's consistent.
We just assume it's there. But for these residents, it's been a constant hurdle.
Yet their community spirit seems strong. They keep voting, keep sending kids to school.
That resilience, again, participating despite the system's failure to fully include them, it says a lot about their commitment.
This whole story, playing out near the Lower Manair Dam, it does leave you thinking, doesn't it?
About what?
Like, if a whole community can tick along for 40 years without an official name, what other unseen realities are out there? What other gaps exist in the systems we rely on?
That's a really profound thought. It forces you to look beyond the surface.
It just highlights how fundamental that basic administrative stuff is. Clear records, clear addresses. It's the bedrock.
It is. And when it fails, even if unintentionally, communities can get marginalized. This isn't just about Karimnagar. It's a reminder that good governance needs constant attention, right down to the local level, making sure everyone is actually seen and served by the system.
So a bit of practical advice, maybe? If any listeners find themselves in Karimnagar, near the dam, looking for this place?
Good luck finding it on a map, right?
Right. Maybe just start asking around.
Probably the best bet.
Try Kesava Nagar, Fisherman's Colony, Chapala Colony.
Camel Colony, Kakadika Colony, Aluganurtu.
Kummari Badi Wada. Just try them all. See which one gets a nod.
It's a real-life puzzle still waiting for its final piece.